Hello, this is Fiona Cuthbertson coming from the pod to record another episode of Off the Cuff. This week we're lucky enough to have Dave Burley, CEO of Rail Operations Group, or ROG for short. Dave has over 30 years' experience in the rail industry, holding a number of executive and senior management positions within both train and freight operating companies and franchise bid teams. Having had a lot of experience in all areas of the rail industry, including operations, production, risk assurance, safety and project management, it is no surprise that in 2017, ROG was awarded Rail Operator of the Year in 2017. Welcome, Dave.
Good morning, Fiona. Thank you.
Can you tell us a bit about your background and how you ended up as the CEO of ROG?
Yes, of course. I was born at the beginning of the 60s in a working class background in the West Midlands. Attended a standard secondary school education. Dad was ex-Royal Navy and a plumber, tradesman. Mum was a nurse. Strong morals right from the start, as I say, as part of a working class family. Boy had interest in trains and couldn't really wait to finish education and get out there and earn some cash. Combined the two, starting a footplate career at a little known depot called Saltley in 1977 as a driver's mate, or a driver's assistant as they were termed at the time. Learned through a 5-year apprenticeship how to handle trains, rules, regulations, all the good stuff that makes a railway work, and got my own gold buttons as a train driver in 1982. I had an enjoyable few years train driving, still picking up the operation side of rail, and moved into management in 1989. Career since then, a lot of the stuff that you've mentioned earlier, so rather than repeat it, we'll go to the good ideas that normally start in pubs, and ROG was no exception. Carl Watts and a few others were toying with a driver hire company 12 years ago. And we thought, well, given we've all spent most of our working lives on the railway, if we didn't pull together a train operating company now, or try to, while the political climate was right, then we'd regret it. So we did. Started the Rail Operations Group, found a niche market. The DfT's rolling stock strategy had just been released then, and we used the knowledge and expertise to form, as I say, a train operating company, and that really revolutionised the way rolling stock was delivered, cascaded, taken off for scrap, etc. It's worked really well over the past 10 years. Star Capital invested in the business in 2021, and I became the chief exec shortly afterwards.
And what is the most important piece of work that ROG has done to ensure the rail sector continues to thrive?
Oh, there have been a few, Fiona. I guess revolutionising the rolling stock services market through partnership and a degree of innovation was the first. Pulled together a fleet of specially modified locomotives to deliver rolling stock across the industry. Steam powered before then, they were delivered in the same way that had been delivered for absolutely eons as part of a freight train. So change that. Been delivering strongly, for the past 10 years. Now emulated by another number of SME startups, I say imitation of some serious form of flattery. And the mode of delivery has now become the norm over the past 10 years. It's saved the industry a huge sum of money, really. In 2021, we pioneered the high-speed logistics business, converted some former passenger units to carry parcels and light goods, trialled them over Christmas of that year and proved that the concept worked. But like most pioneers, some of those ended up with arrows in their back, and we took a few with the ride of the high-speed logistics. We realised we've got more work to do in terms of the model, pricing, etc. We stepped back for a while, but the concept remains. So now picking up that mantle for high-speed logistic operations. So you will see more of them. And finally, and I guess the most important piece of work, are the Class 93 tri-mode locomotives. And they operate in diesel, battery and AC electric, haul trains, everything from heavy freight to express passengers at speeds up to 110 miles an hour. And you can fill, if you like, across areas where there's no electrification in place, or there's not likely to be for the foreseeable future. It gives a complete new mode of rail operation. And for me, that's the most important piece of work. That's the kind of legacy piece.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, obviously, that other SMEs have followed you in your endeavours. And I was going to ask next, how important are SMEs to the rail industry? And what does the government need to do to help them innovate to drive the sector forward further?
Yeah, they're hugely important, Fiona. Just this SME made a real difference. And then they're able to innovate and scale up relatively quickly, which some of the larger organisations can't do. And I think there'll always be a place for SMEs in a nationalised railway, providing the government gives them a real place at the table on an equal footing or on a par with some of the bigger players.
And what's been the hardest challenge you've had to overcome whilst working in this industry?
I guess there'll be people knowing who we are and what we do. And Matt Seaton, commercial director, calls this business the industry's best kept secret. And he's not wrong. Despite all the usual media, high branded locomotives, etc., you still get the question from time to time, oh yes, ROG, as I've heard of you, what is it you do again? So yeah, it's that being noticed and standing out piece.
Indeed, you can see the ROG branded trains when you go into Derby Station, and they certainly do stand out. So it is a shame that it's still a secret. And what underrated tools are indispensable for your job?
This would have to be my people, as a business that's been crafted by ourselves from the start, and all of them strive 24/7 to give the best possible piece across the industry, so to all of our customers. And we tend to remember in great detail when things don't go well, but not the successful delivery that they make happen time after time. And my people, doing some of the most technically complicated stuff in the industry, don't always get the recognition they deserve.
You talk about your people. Men traditionally do dominate the rail industry. What work is being done to change demographics?
ROG's pretty gender neutral, to be honest. Sex matters not really a jot. From board members right through the managerial ranks, all are viewed equally. And if you can do the job, then you do the job. But again, looking at the demographics, particularly amongst the drivers, shutters and front end ranks, there's still much more to do, I think. The railway really wants to change far more than it ever did from the days of male-dominated smoky boardrooms, and is on the right path. A lot of the advocacy for women in rail, the naming of locomotive after Karen Harrison, one of the first female footplate pioneers. It's all hugely positive stuff and keeps building equality, so it becomes the norm.
Coming back to the fact that you are still unusual being gender neutral, it does seem that you are blazing the trail on a number of different things. So if you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
I'm tempted to say the Class 93 because it's such a really amazing piece of kit, but I think it's a bit softer than that. ROG's an amazing team of industry specialists, and I like to think that I put that into place, and it's a lasting tribute to kind of what can be achieved.
There's been a real sea change in transport with nationalisation of our transport system under the Labour government. How do you think this is going to set the scene for transport policy going forward?
And remembering the former nationalisation, the old BR, if you like, is hugely important. The industry then did some really good stuff with innovation, high-speed trains, the advanced passenger train, tilting trains, etc. But operationally, the railway was hugely cumbersome with a really, really large national and regional organisation. And at times, it was almost British Rajways, and that can become hugely stifling. The industry needs to, on a firm place for SMEs and innovation if we're going to continue to give a best value railway. And providing the rail reform bill gives all an equal opportunity to operators, and train performance can improve, freight growth can be enabled, investment allied to innovation can deliver huge benefits. The franchising model ran its course. Everybody realised that there's time for change, so let's see how it goes. It's my future, provided we get it right.
And of course, it provides us the opportunity to leverage technologies like AI, data analytics, automation. How can these developments be harnessed under nationalisation to create a more modern and appealing rail service?
The industry's making huge strides. Network Rail actually be engaging in AI and automation. The focus on youth and the next generation of railway people, and widening supported apprenticeship schemes, continuing to provide support for those who seek to pioneer through investment, clean fuel sources and all parts of trains.
And we just had the greatest gathering in Derby, and Great British Rail is going to be based in Derby as well. Not a surprise, the Midlands are often referred to as the home of the railways. So what issue is the most important for rail in the Midlands at the moment?
Well, HS2 is the big one. Innovative open operators having applications denied on grounds of infrastructure capacity. And that really says it all. Run out of track, we admit defeat. And I think HS2, coupled with the ERTMS project, the replacement of signals with automated in-cab signalling, are key to getting far, far more from our infrastructure. And this really is key across the Midlands to both freight and passenger operations.
And let's not forget, ROG's involved in the political process. You're going to be hosting a roundtable once Parliament returns properly after the conference season. This is going to cover issues like how the government and industry can work together to ensure nationalisation delivers results for passengers and freight. So what are you looking to achieve from this event?
Electrification is another hugely important element of our industry, and a number of areas within the national infrastructure are crying out for it. I think we've got to pay homage to the public purse, and if the money's not there for electrification, we have to do something differently for a while. And tri-mode locomotives, other innovative forms of traction are available. Much of this work's been done by SMEs, and ensuring that the benefit SMEs bring to the industry continue to be recognised. That's the really important bit for me. And it's around this angle that the roundtable will focus.
Ensuring that the government, on the one hand, pays homage to the public purse, but on the other hand, achieves the objectives that it has set out. Do you think that the ministry and the department engages enough with those on the coalface to ensure that their policies actually work?
I think it's a two-way street, really, Fiona. And from my perspective, in ROG, I see Department for Business and Trade representatives regularly, have liaison with regulatory bodies, meet ministers, etc., and have the opportunity and routes through our trade bodies to access them. In a more corporate sense, I think that both the ministry and the department will have to liaise with the coalface to measure success. And the reason for that is that nationalisation of the railways will be very, very high on the public's radar, and it's got to be seen as a success.
Absolutely. And as well as nationalisation, the government have announced a number of different new rail projects. This is supposed to give the supply chain the certainty and confidence it needs. Will that be the case, do you think?
There's a huge amount going on, Fiona, in terms of upgrades, renewals, innovation, and that has to give confidence to any supply chain. But that said, control of projects has to be firm, and historically we've not been great at that. Spiralling costs, cancellations, curtailment of projects, they're not a good customer look, and from a supplier perspective, they really do not elicit confidence. So I think we've got work to do there.
So how do you think that this confidence and certainty can be achieved in real terms?
That's a good question, and I think it can only be from strong governance. When specifications have been made, sticking to them and changing them as little as possible, managing the supply chain robustly, and then ensuring that project governance is as good as it possibly can be.
And of course, with these new rail projects, there needs to be a sense of accountability within the government regarding safety. So what do you think the government needs to do to ensure that people do have confidence in the safety of the new nationalised service?
I think it's ensuring that the operating safety rules that have been set and developed and carved out and honed for years continue to be updated in light of emerging technologies, so that people are held to account for not only their own train services, but the way they perform, and ensure that they perform safely out there on the network.
There is going to be a lot of change within the industry with nationalisation, and obviously you've concentrated very much on improvement of technology and innovation. So what do you think the world is going to look like in 5 years' time?
I want to say full of Class 93s hauling both freight and passenger services, but avoiding that level of flippancy. I think we'll continue to see decarbonisation and replacement fuel sources at the core of what we do, and a continued push for innovation.
And finally, do you feel positive about the future?
Absolutely, Fiona. I was over at the Greatest Gathering on Saturday. 200 years of railways this year, and that pioneering spirit is still very, very much alive. I like to think that when I stand down from my watch, we've left the industry in a better place than we picked it up. And looking at the passion that was over the road in the Church Lane at Alston over the weekend, that's certainly where we are.
Dave, thank you so much for coming to talk to us today. It's been most interesting to hear about how important innovation is in rail, how key that is to success, and how important it is that the government does get their new nationalisation policies right. Thank you to the listeners who've hopefully enjoyed the show as much as we've enjoyed making it. If you have any questions regarding the podcast today, please feel free to comment. If you think it's worth coming back, please like and subscribe. If you feel you need something to tide you over to the next podcast, please buy my book Party Games on Amazon. And on that note, I'll see you next time. Hope you have a good week, one and all.